Hey guys, this is your boy Football Talk Gaming, and today we got the worst NFL coaches in every season of the 2010s. Now, these are certainly videos I will watch on my own time, and I figured why not react to it on the gaming channel. And we shall see how this one goes. If you guys do like videos like this, I have some more that was just released today. So if you want me to react to them, or if it's anything that you want me to react to, make sure you leave it in the comments of this video or any of my videos. Yeah, man, oh man, I'm super ready to see who was the worst coaches. The Browns definitely is up there. I mean, we got the Jets screen. I know you guys cannot see it right now, but the Jets screen, the Jets team. Yeah, it's a couple of them that I can think off the top of my head. Before I hop into this, though, I'm going to need you guys to give your boy a huge like on this video right now. Subscribe to your boy. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, what is you doing? It's Football Talk Gaming, baby. Without further ado, though, let's get into it.
These are the worst head coaches in every year of the 2010s. 2010, Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was a walking disaster who managed to turn one of the NFL's most stable franchises into a total train wreck in just 21 months. Has anyone from the Belichick tree ever been a good coach? The 2009 Broncos actually started 6-0, with McDaniels fist-pumping like he was playing Madden on rookie mode. But then reality hit. He went 5-17 after that, completely losing the locker room, the fan base, and eventually his job. But 2010 was special. If there's one thing McDaniels should have learned from Bill Belichick, it's how to cheat without getting caught. Instead, he illegally videotaped a 49ers practice in London, got caught, and then tried to pretend he had no idea what was going on. The NFL didn't buy it, and he was fined $50,000 for his very own Spygate scandal. And at that point, he had already worn out his welcome in Denver. McDaniels, a self-proclaimed quarterback guru, decided the future of Denver football was Tim Tebow. In the first round, scouts saw Tebow as a project at best, but McDaniels thought he could mold him into a superstar. He traded up to grab Tebow 25th overall, passing on actual NFL quarterbacks like Colt McCoy and Jimmy Clausen. Okay, so maybe that's a stretch, but still, trading up to grab Tim Tebow in the first round, big mistake. McDaniels came in with a my way or the highway approach, and it turns out
it was a big mistake, looking at it from this standpoint, but looking at it overall, I obviously know who Colt McCoy is, but I've never heard that other person's name. Shout out to him for making it to the NFL. But Tim Tebow is better than both of them, and it's not even close. In the short run of time that he had in the NFL, Tim Tebow is way better than both of them. Colt McCoy was a solid at times backup. Other times, you wondered how he made it to the NFL. Yeah, the second guy I've never heard of at all. So that should let you know that already. But in this context, I will have to agree with him.
The highway was a lot more appealing. He immediately clashed with Jay Cutler, who forced a trade before McDaniels even coached a game. He shipped out Brandon Marshall to Miami and Peyton Hillis to Cleveland for Brady Quinn. By 2010, the Broncos had no identity and one of the worst rosters in the league. The 3-9 start in 2010 was brutal, but the Spygate scandal sealed his fate.
And that's still better than
week 13,
a lot of teams
him one of the
this
only
year.
Coaches in franchise history to get canned mid-season. McDaniels somehow managed to get another head coaching job a decade later with the Raiders. Some franchises never learn.
I forgot about this.
Steve Spagnuolo.
Spagnuolo, the defensive guru.
Doesn't always mean you'll be a great head coach. Look no further than Steve Spagnuolo's tenure with the St. Louis Rams.
I did not know he was a coach. A head coach.
Super Bowl winning defense in 2007 to leading the Rams to a historically awful 10-38 record over 3 seasons. By the time 2011 rolled around, the Rams were a football crime scene. They finished 2-14, which is standard terrible coach territory. But what makes Spags' 2011 team uniquely terrible is how non-competitive they were. Their point differential was negative 214, meaning they got outscored by an average of 13.4 points per game. That's slightly better than the 0-16 Lions of 2008, who lost by 15.5 points per game. but it was worse than the 0-16 Browns of 2017.
Ho. You mean to tell me your point differential was worse than the team that did not even win a game that season? You know how hard it is to be that bad? That's talent. Okay, we gotta clap it up. That's talent right there. To be that bad. Oh my goodness. You ever like been good at something and like you're playing like your little brother, little sister, your little cousin, or something like that, and you gotta act like they won? Like you gotta let them win? Like, do you know how hard that is to do? Give it up for them, man. Give it up for Spags' head coach career. He made the impossible possible in the worst way ever. Man, oh man, that is...
They were a certified abomination. They finished last in points per game, 31st in yards per game, and last in passing touchdowns. They only had 9 passing touchdowns all year. Even Tim Tebow threw for 12 that season. This was supposed to be Sam Bradford's breakout year after winning Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2010. But he got sacked 36 times in 10 games and suffered a high ankle sprain that basically derailed his entire season. Even when Bradford did play, the offense was completely unwatchable. The leading receiver was Brandon Lloyd with 683 yards, and in second place was Brandon Gibson with 431. And the defense, which is obviously Spags' specialty, was also garbage. They gave up the second most points in the NFL. Teams were using the Rams as a warm-up drill. After getting fired, Spags returned to the New Orleans Saints as a defensive coordinator, and they immediately set the record for most yards allowed in a season in NFL history. But in true failing upward fashion, he landed with the Chiefs a few years later and has obviously won another few Super Bowls.
Became one of the best defensive coordinators.
Sure this is the greatest defensive coordinator in NFL history? The 2011 Rams were just as bad as teams that went 0-16, and Spags' defense was a complete joke. 2012, Romeo Crennel.
Remember him.
A football paradox. A team that somehow went 2-14 despite having 6 Pro Bowlers. That's like having a Ferrari and finishing last in a go-kart race. Crennel was historically inept, to the point where he publicly admitted he had no idea why his team was so awful. Was this the most talented 2-14 team ever? The Chiefs had Jamal Charles, who rushed for 1,500 yards, Tamba Ali and Justin Houston, who combined for 19 sacks, Derek Johnson made a Pro Bowl at linebacker, Eric Berry made a Pro Bowl at safety, and Dustin Colquitt, who, yeah, he was their punter, but I'm trying to establish a narrative here, so just go with it. Yet somehow they were comically unwatchable. Dead last in passing offense, dead last in points per game, and 10 two-possession losses. Crennel also saw one of the most painful quarterback situations of the decade. Matt Castle was already struggling, but when he went down, the Chiefs turned to Brady Quinn. And the result was 8 total passing touchdowns for the season. For context, Nick Foles had 7 touchdowns in 1 game the following year.
Okay, everyone is trying to come up with crazy ways to skip ads. Like, chill. Guys, just download Pi. This Chrome extension takes 5 seconds to set up and it blocks ads.
He
threw 8 touchdowns in the whole season. Wow. I did read the top. Yeah, these are the worst coaches, but god damn if these ain't some of the worst damn quarterbacks I've ever heard. Oh my god, it's giving me a headache.
Dez Bryant caught 12 touchdowns all by himself that season. The offense was so bad that when Castle got knocked out with a concussion, Chiefs fans cheered. And the biggest headline of the Chiefs
don't cheer.
Season,
Alright, we ain't gonna do that over here.
Was the Jovan Belcher tragedy. And he somehow managed to coach the team the next day, but obviously the season had completely unraveled. And the ultimate proof that Romeo Crennel was just incompetent as the Chiefs head coach was the fact that Andy Reid fixed everything instantly the very next year. As soon as Crennel got fired, the Chiefs added Andy Reid, added Alex Smith, and went 11-5. With practically the same roster, but obviously I understand going from Matt Castle to Alex Smith is a big deal.
I mean, Alex Smith was that dude too. Before the injury, if you don't know, he was that dude.
His most important player. 2013, Greg Schiano. Schiano was like a full-blown authoritarian dictator.
I didn't know he was the coach for the head coach for the Buccaneers.
Felt less like an NFL coaching tenure and more like a psychological experiment on how fast you can get an entire franchise to hate you. He came in from Rutgers thinking he could treat grown men like college freshmen. He implemented this strict military-style regimen
From
like a boot camp drill instructor.
I can't name a single person who went to Rutgers.
And just created locker room tension
I can't.
immediately. One of the most
And they
toxic coaches of the
Jesus
decade.
Christ.
And his biggest power trip came at the expense of quarterback Josh Freeman. Schiano
I
allegedly
remember
rigged the team
Freeman.
captain vote to ensure Freeman didn't get the honor. And after benching him in week 3, Schiano reportedly leaked Freeman's confidential medical info about being in the league's substance abuse program. Freeman was cut mid-season and out of the NFL shortly after.
Nah,
And
get
if
that
all
man
is
out
true,
here.
that's
Get
just
your
straight-up
ass
villain
out of here,
behavior.
bro.
Schiano was so bad, the locker room literally got sick of him. A MRSA outbreak infected several
Yeah, I'm
other
fighting
players,
coach.
including Pro Bowl guard Carl Nicks. The situation got so bad, the NFLPA launched
He
an
just got a punchable
investigation
face,
into
just
whether the facility was a health hazard. Players basically had to worry about catching an infection from their cleats while also trying to survive Schiano's nonsense. Then there was the victory formation controversy. Schiano's dumbest football moment came when he had his defense dive at the knees of the Giants' offensive line while they're taking a knee to run out the clock. Tom Coughlin was so mad he nearly fought him post-game.
Kaufman one of them old dudes that whoop your ass.
Obviously, no one else
You can
agreed
definitely
because it was
tell
a cheap
back in
shot
his
and
day
it's
he was
bush league
whooping
when you're
ass and
playing in
taking
the
names.
NFL. By mid-season, the entire locker room hated him. Darrelle Revis reportedly
Hell,
cursed him
I
out
don't
in the
like
meeting,
him.
and
I don't
players
even know the
anonymously
guy.
trashed him to the media all season long. Their final record was 4-12, and Schiano was out the door. He became probably the most hated coach in Bucs history. Fired after 2 seasons, never
Probably.
sniffed another job in the NFL, and went right back to college. He made the Bucs actively miserable, gave them an infection, and nearly got into multiple fights with his own team and opponents. He was so bad, he made Tampa Bay grateful for Lovie Smith. 2014, Mark Trestman. If Josh McDaniels was a cocky fraud, Greg Schiano was a power-hungry dictator, and Romeo Crennel was a confused grandpa, then Mark Trestman was a substitute teacher who lost control of the classroom within 5 minutes.
I
His
mean, that's
2014
how both
Chicago
subs
Bears were an
is.
all-time
Let's be
embarrassing
real.
circus
You know
that
you're
had
not gonna do
locker room
nothing in there,
fights,
so you're just gonna get
benchings,
away with
leaks,
shit.
and gave up 50 points multiple times. By the time it was over, Trestman looked less like a coach and more like a lost accountant who had accidentally wandered onto the sideline. Trestman was supposed to be an offensive
Yo, I
genius.
can't
who would
see-
elevate
I
Jay
can't-
Cutler
I
into
can't
an
see
elite
the accountant.
quarterback. Instead, Cutler went in the other direction. Brandon Marshall got so frustrated, he reportedly fought kicker Robbie Gould in a post-game meltdown. The team leaked inside information to
He
the
fought the
media,
kicker.
trashing Cutler and questioning Trestman's leadership, and the defense openly quit. Trestman's Bears became one of the worst defensive units in modern history under coordinator Mel Tucker. They gave up 50 points in back-to-back games.
Oh my god! I love, I love this right here. I love this right here. Tom putting up 50 on them boys. You had the worst damn defense. Imagine that putting down your resume. I was the coach of the worst defense in modern NFL history. Yep, that's what I bring to the table. If you want your defense to be bad or be the worst it's ever been, hire me. Like,
51 on them in week 8, and then the Packers put up 55 while Aaron Rodgers threw 6 touchdowns in the first half. Trestman was so desperate to save his job that he did the unthinkable. He benched Jay Cutler for Jimmy Clausen, one of the worst quarterbacks of all time, in week 16. Clausen finished the game 11 for 23 before getting concussed. At this point, the Bears' offense, what was supposed to be a strength under Trestman, wasn't even functional anymore. By the end of 2014, he was a broken man. He'd gone from being a supposed QB guru to the helpless professor in a college movie watching his students throw a kegger in the lecture hall. The Bears finished
I know high school
5-11, and
coaches
Trestman
that's
was
better
fired
than
after
this.
just 2 seasons. His legacy was he made Jay Cutler worse, he benched Cutler for Jimmy Clausen, and he lost the locker room so badly that players fought each other. One of the worst things to ever happen to the Chicago Bears. 2015,
That's saying a
Jim
lot,
Tom
too.
Sula.
over the past couple
Tom
years
Sula
of the
might be
Bears.
the most lovable
That saying a
disaster of
lot.
the 2010s. While guys like Schiano and McDaniels failed because they were arrogant, Tom Sula failed because he was completely out of his depth. He was like the world's most confused stepdad trying to manage a group of alpha males while accidentally farting in a press conference. The 49ers went from Jim Harbaugh, who's a fire-breathing psychopath that took them to 3 straight NFC championships,
It works,
to a D-line
'cause he's a
coach who looked
real
like a
coach.
confused mall Santa and sounded like he was mumbling through a mouthful of mashed potatoes. When the Niners fired Harbaugh,
Damn,
they
I
had
wanna
their
hear
pick of
how-
real
how you
candidates,
sound.
But instead, they hired Tom Sula.
Oh my! Wait a minute.
Their pick of real candidates, but
Perfect picture right here. This. Hold on. I gotta take a screenshot of this. This is perfect. This is a perfect thumbnail.
Instead, they hired Tom Sula, a glorified assistant with no head coaching experience beyond one game as
He
an
looked
interim
like he
coach
don't
in
belong.
2010. In his introductory press conference, he was sweating bullets, stumbling through sentences, and somehow made less sense than Mike McCarthy explaining analytics. He
Yeah,
also
you're
had
making
this list of
Mike
the most
McCarthy
bizarre
look
odd
like
jobs of all time.
Bill fucking
But at least he
Belichick.
seemed nice, and that's where the problem started.
That is
the
incredible.
2015 49ers had one of the worst off seasons in
Look at
NFL
him.
history. Patrick Willis retired. Chris Borland retired. Frank Gore left in free agency. Michael
boy.
Crabtree gone. Alden Smith arrested again and cut.
Yeah.
By the time Tom Sula coached his first game, the 49ers were already a shell of the team that had dominated in the first half of the decade. They managed
I gotta
to win
watch
their
one
first
that-
game, but then reality set in. They were outscored 90-25 in weeks 2 and 3, getting blown out by 40 points in week 3. And at the end of the season, they finished 32nd in offense. The Colin Kaepernick era officially died.
And this
He was
still
benched
is
for
not
Blaine
the
Gabbert,
worst.
which is just sad in numerous ways. And Tom
This
Sula
whole
was
videos
already
is
losing the
making me
media.
depressed,
But then
bro.
came
This
one of
is-
the greatest press conference moments ever. While being asked a question, he let out an audible fart mid-sentence and then just kept listening like nothing happened. The 49ers season was literally falling apart in real time, and Tom Sula was out there dropping accidental sound effects. And despite being a train wreck, the 49ers had signed him to a 4-year contract worth $14 million. When he got fired after just one season, he still walked away with the full value of his contract. But the funniest
What?
part is, unlike other bad coaches, no one actually hated Jim Tom Sula. He was too nice and too clueless to be a villain. Was he in over his head? Absolutely.
Very much so.
Was he the worst 49ers
Maybe-
coach in
maybe
history?
maybe he was a good
Mike
special
Singletary
teams
might
coach.
have something to
Yeah,
say about
yeah,
that.
he
Did
got
somehow
rival on
become
that
a meme
one.
legend in the process? 100%.
Hell, you could put both of them
Tom
on
Sula
this
was never
list.
really an NFL head coach. He was a sitcom character accidentally hired for the job. And for that, we salute him.
He wasn't accidentally hired. They just forgot that they hired him. And then when he showed up, ready for the press conference, everybody was looking like, who is this guy? James, come here. Let me see that paper. We hired him for 4 years. Hey, everybody. No more pizza parties, none of that. We spent how much? Everybody fired. Everybody, I'm firing Ashley. Y'all all keep y'all job. I'ma fire myself. I'm walking out of that. I'm gone. I'm gone. Don't attach me to him. The organization. Don't attach me to them. I don't know them. Now this dude right here, he got on my nerves. I ain't even gonna lie to you.
16, Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher's entire coaching philosophy boiled down to one simple goal: go 7-9 at all costs. The problem in 2016 was the fact that even 7-9 was ambitious. Fisher was the ultimate master of
That is-
mediocrity, a
that's
guy who somehow
terrible.
spent 22 years as an NFL head coach without accomplishing anything notable outside of losing a Super Bowl 2 decades earlier. But in 2016, he imploded spectacularly, putting on a coaching performance so bad that the Rams instantly became Super Bowl contenders the very next year after he was fired.
Let
Before
that
the
sink
season
in.
even started, the Rams quietly gave Fisher a 2-year contract extension. This was a team that hadn't had a winning record in over a decade. Fisher had gone 7-9, 6-10, and 7-9 in the previous 3 years. So naturally, the Rams front office said yes, more of that, which made zero sense at the time and looked even worse when the season started. The Rams had just drafted Jared Goff with the first overall pick, obviously a potential franchise quarterback. Fisher, in his infinite wisdom, decided that the best way to develop Goff was to not let him play. So he started Case Keenum for the first 9 games. Keenum responded by leading the NFL's worst offense. And when Fisher finally started Goff, he looked completely unprepared, going 0-7 to finish the year. By midseason, Fisher was at war with his own team. He feuded with Rams legend Eric Dickerson, banning him from the sidelines for criticizing the team. And in Week 14, Fisher officially tied Dan Reeves for the most losses in NFL history with 165. So the Rams rewarded this legendary milestone by firing him on the spot. His final game was an embarrassing 42-14 loss against the Falcons, a fitting farewell to a man who built his career on fielding the most forgettable teams possible. The greatest indictment of Fisher's coaching? The fact that the very next year, Sean McVay took the same roster and went 11-5, and the season after that, they were in the Super Bowl. For years, Jeff Fisher stubbornly clung to mediocrity, but in 2016, even that was out of reach. Terrible offense, no development for Goff, a feud with a franchise legend, and an all-time losing record. 2017, Hugh Jackson. Some bad coaches have one awful season and get fired. Others stick around a little bit too long before getting the boot. But Hugh Jackson? Hugh survived an entire 3-year stretch of football so bad it should be illegal.
I still have no idea how he kept his job for 3 fucking years. They didn't win a game! Oh my god, bro. This whole video is making me mad.
2017 Browns went 0-16 and became one of the most embarrassing teams in NFL history. But what made Hughes
they made the
Lions
so back then look good.
It was his unmatched ability to deflect blame, throwing others under the bus, and acting like none of it was his fault. Let's take a moment to really appreciate Hugh Jackson's 1-31 record from 2016 to 2017.
He won one game!
Modern NFL history has ever been that bad over 2 seasons and then survived to get a 3rd season. Hugh won 1 game during this time, while Bill Belichick won 27. The best part was the fact that he acted like none of it was his fault, constantly throwing the front office under the bus for not giving him enough talent and insisting the team was improving even as they lost 16 straight. The Browns had Deshaun Kaiser.
It's very hard to improve when you ain't win no games.
To ruin him completely. Kaiser threw 22 interceptions and never started another NFL game after leaving Cleveland.
Damn, 22.
Duke Johnson wasted. David Njoku barely used. Myles Garrett had a good rookie year, but the defense was still a joke. They lost in overtime twice and turned the ball over in the worst moments possible. Hilariously, before the season, Hugh guaranteed the Browns wouldn't be bad again. He said if they go 1-15 again, he'll jump in Lake Erie. Since they went 0-16, he was technically right, but instead of backing out, he literally jumped into Lake Erie in 2018. Fans celebrated
Why
like
are you
it was a
smiling?
championship, and it was probably the highlight of his coaching career. The Browns mercifully fired Hugh in 2018, and he didn't shut up about it. He went on a media tour claiming he was set up to
I
fail.
remember this.
Said Baker Mayfield was the reason he got fired, and claimed he was sabotaged and never had a fair shot.
Yeah, alright.
Meanwhile, Cleveland immediately improved the second he left. They went 5-3 after firing him, and Baker Mayfield started balling out. When it was all said and done, Hugh Jackson went 3-36 over 3 seasons and blamed everyone but himself. 2018, Steve Wilks. Some bad head coaches cause total chaos, but Steve Wilks was so forgettable that most Cardinals fans probably don't even remember he existed. His 2018 Cardinals were a complete non-factor. The offense was historically bad, the team had no identity, and by the time Wilks got fired after just 1 season, nobody really cared. It was like firing the substitute teacher who spent the whole semester just showing movies every day. The 2018 Cardinals certainly weren't supposed to be great, but they at least had some talent. Larry Fitzgerald was coming off an 1,100-yard season. David Johnson was 2 years removed from leading the league in scrimmage yards. They had a solid defense featuring Patrick Peterson and Chandler Jones. And the number 10 overall pick, Josh Rosen, was a highly regarded quarterback prospect. But they ended up being the worst team in football, and Wilks had accomplished absolutely nothing. He handpicked Mike McCoy as his offensive coordinator, and McCoy immediately designed the worst offense possible. Dead last in total yards, dead last in passing yards, dead last in rushing yards, dead last in points per game. Rosen was supposed to be the future of the franchise. Instead, Wilks and company broke him beyond repair. After 1 season, the Cardinals decided Rosen was beyond saving and dumped him for Kyler Murray, which was obviously the right choice. Wilks lasted precisely 1 season, finished 3-13, got outscored by 200 points, and the team never looked remotely competitive. The Cardinals then hired Cliff Kingsbury, who had just been fired from Texas Tech, to replace him. And just like that, his head coaching career was over. He was just as irrelevant as he was bad. 2019, Freddie Kitchens. Freddie Kitchens was the football equivalent of winning the lottery and then immediately setting the money on fire. The 2019 Browns had sky-high expectations, a roster so loaded with talent, some people even picked them to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Then Freddie Kitchens showed up in a hoodie that said Pittsburgh started it and coached like he just learned about football last Tuesday. After the firing of Hugh Jackson, the Browns had a choice: hire a hot coaching candidate from outside the organization or roll with Freddie Kitchens, a guy who had never even been a coordinator until halfway through 2018. They picked Kitchens over Kevin Stefanski, which is like choosing a Waffle House cook to run a Michelin star restaurant instead of Gordon Ramsay. This Browns team had Baker Mayfield coming off a record-setting rookie season, Odell Beckham Jr., who was still considered one of the best receivers in the league at the time, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, and a solid defense. On paper, they looked like a contender, but instead they went 6-10. Freddie Kitchens took what might have been a Ferrari and drove it right into a ditch. He was an offensive coach, yet the Browns' offense was 22nd in points. Baker Mayfield regressed badly, throwing 21 interceptions, and Odell Beckham had the worst season of his career. He also lost complete control of the team. Myles Garrett
it was that year?
over the head with a helmet.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield started calling out the coaching staff. OBJ wore a $300,000 watch during a game, and by midseason it was obvious the players didn't respect Kitchens at all. He was immediately fired after the season ended, and then replaced with Kevin Stefanski, who they obviously should have hired in the first place because he instantly turned them into a contender the next year.
This was their first playoff win
interview, and he became a tight end.
I forgot me years. This whole video, bro. I knew it was gonna be bad, but I didn't realize it was gonna make me this angry at the front office and the coach. Some of them had terrible players as well, but for the most part, when it got down to like the last three, that's gonna do it for me, guys. This is already a long one, and I'm not gonna, I know you guys probably are punching at the screen right now like I want to, but I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. See you guys in the next one.